conversation today. And hello, everyone. I'm the director of Center for Academic Literacy, and I'm very happy here. I'm very happy to have the conversation with my colleague, Yazhu 老师. And
Hi.
Also, hi, Yazhu. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tony.
We are also very happy to have the opportunity to have this conversation with Shu Yao, one of our students, excellent students at NTNU. And I think the conversation here today is very, very special because we have the chance to know what students, what they are thinking in their heads and what makes an exciting EMI class from the student's perspective.
Right.
So before we invite Shu Yao to talk about her, herself, Yazhu, you want to say something before we start the conversation?
Thank you, Tony. I have to say it's my privilege and also my honor to have a talk with Director Liu and also Shu Yao, one of our students today. As we are moving on to the live streaming today, this is our second live streaming, and we're about to talk about student concerns, and we're going to discuss focusing on the speaking challenges. And we want to, through this kind of discussion, we want to explore effective techniques to encourage students to discuss with their own concerns, and with this, so that we can have a possible guidance to understand how we can provide students some areas of improvement and how we can improve our service as well to accommodate to their needs. So I'm very happy to be here today to talk about this meaningful topic. And I think it's also a great time to invite Shu Yao to briefly talk about herself so that we can know her better. Shu Yao, you have the floor.
Hi, I'm Shu Yao, and I'm from Malaysia. I'm Malaysian, and I'm 21 years old. I'm now studying in psychology counseling with double major in English department. And I think, in my point of view, I think in EMI courses, I think that is very interesting to have interaction between teachers and students, all in English. And I find that teachers, they prioritize discussion and answering questions, which helps to deepen understanding of the course content. And I think group presentation and group collaboration is very important, and is highlight of the EMI courses, because the group discussions and project collaboration, we can share different perspectives and experiences, and we can have one-on-one discussion with students, with our teammates, and also we can learning from each other. I think that is a very great experience during the EMI courses. And I think also we use English to report and to express our opinions and to enhance our English learning effectiveness. And also when I participate in EMI courses, I think it brings challenges because we are not in a fully English whole English country. So I think for students during the EMI class, I think the most challenge is the language expression. So I feel that the opportunities to speak English in Taiwan is very limited, which is very limited. So facing an all English environment can be very nerve-wracking, can be very challenging. However, I think these challenges are also a growth opportunities through continuous practice during the class, learning, express ourselves, not only to improve our English proficiency, but also can gain confidence during communicating in English. And I think the English resources provided by NTNU is quite abundant, because we have English books in the library, and also we have English chat room without weekends. But Monday to Friday, our school offers such English chat room to let a student to go to that, to have a very detailed conversation with them. I think that is quite effective, and these resources provide us with convenience and provide more opportunities, especially we are in Taiwan. So I think for learning English, I think in NTNU did provide a lot of resources for us.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right, Suyao, thank you so much. I think you pointed out several interesting points. First of all, and I'm trying to listen to your sharing from the teacher perspective. I think you pointed out several important things. The first thing is that I think a teacher should create sufficient opportunity for interaction. I think interaction is a key word in your sharing. And that also means that a teacher needs to provide sufficient opportunity for students to produce, to express their views, not only in different formats, for example, between them and their classmates and between them and the teacher. So production needs to play a role in the teacher's EMI class. But I think the challenges for the teacher is that because when you're using English, it will definitely slow down, the pace of your teaching, right? So originally in China, when using Chinese, they can probably talk about 5 things. But when they are teaching the same subject content using English, they probably would just be able to talk about 4 things or 3 things. So I think the teacher probably need to be more selective, right? And probably they need to change their mindset a little bit. Not having the concept of, I want to teach you everything that I know. Because when the teacher walks into an EMI classroom with the mindset that I want to teach you everything that I know, that will probably leave very limited space and time for the student to express themselves. So I think this is also a good reminder for the teacher. It's a good EMI class should also focus on the learning from students, and students can also learn something from their peers, from their classmates as well. Right. So I think this is probably the most, I think something that echoes in my head when I was hearing your sharing. And Yatu, what do you think? Any response to Shu Yao's sharing?
Well, I have to say, I'm very happy to hear what she just shared with us. It's because that she has a huge knowledge of what NTNU has to offer. I have to say, not many students know that what the school is providing at the same time while we are doing EMI. They think that EMI is quite scary and very challenging. So therefore, they reluctantly to take those courses, although they know that it can serve as some very beneficial points for them, not only in their learning, but also in the future. But I know that they do have this kind of dilemma when it comes to EMI. So I'm very happy that Suya just pointed out we got abundant, I believe that's the word that she used, saying that that NTNU actually provides lots of the resources that we can help students not only in the classroom, but out of the classroom. So inside and out, as Professor Liu just mentioned, all together we're actually interweaving a kind of like web or a construction to help students to be ready to take EMI courses. And I want to ask a question to move on. As a student, I noticed that you got very good English proficiency, but I want to ask you about your observation in your class or some of the EMI classes that you've taken. Do you observe some of the practices that teachers do to help you or help other students with your speaking so that they can freely communicate themselves in the classroom?
I think to help students to open up to express themselves, I think is instead of let them let them speak by their own, I think group presentation and group collaboration is a really great idea to let them to open up themselves, because have one-on-one discussion, and instead of facing a lot of people, we only have to face our teammates. So that would be more effective way to open up the mind to eliminate the concerns and to have more confidence to speaking English, because you just need to face teammates instead of facing a lot of people. That is my opinion.
Right. We are not only like speaking up every time, right, in the classroom. We also have lots of discussion among our peers, and at that time we're actually using all kinds of techniques that we learn or we can to deal with the possible situation, and that actually is so much alike as their real life experiences that they are about to encounter, right? So taking advantages of speaking in the classroom, not only to the teacher, but also to other students, it's very good strategy. So as for teachers, maybe they could deploy more time allocation, right, for students to discuss about some of their possible opinions before they want the students to come up to the stage to present. Would you find that be easier for you or your fellow students to do so?
So sorry, can you say it again, your question? I'm so sorry.
My question is that you are stating that the necessity for students to talk to their peer students, right? And do you find it effective if the teachers encourage students to have a short turn and talk to discuss their opinion before they ask them to share their opinion in front of the whole group? Do you find it effective?
You mean to have short discussion with teacher?
Yeah. No, with other fellow students.
As a
I can probably paraphrase Yasu 老师 what she just asked you. So for example, I think what you just talked about earlier is a good example, because not everyone in the classroom has equal proficiency or comparable proficiency level in English. So and I know that everyone is probably not outspoken enough to speak up in front of the whole class. So if my ultimate purpose is to have one or two or some students to share their views in front of the whole class, I probably will ask them to do some peer work first or some group discussion first. So, they have the opportunity to talk about the issues with someone sitting next to them or with the people sitting next to them. So they have the chance to practice or, to hear the feedback from the other people. And then, so this is step one. So step two, after they have done some thinking and they have done some, talking, then I will invite them to come to the front and sharing their views with the, the whole class. So Yasu 老师 was asking, throughout this kind of two-step process, do you find it effective? Or do you think that actually maybe there are other possibilities to make it work better? From your experience, what do you think? Because this is what I did. And what do you guys think, as a student, do you find this effective?
Yes, I think that is a very great idea to get confidence before sharing to whole class.
Right. So I think that give me some comfort, giving me a green light to continue what I'm doing right now, because I think that some kind of scaffold is needed, right? For the teacher, something that you probably don't need to think too much when you're doing this in Chinese, but now when you're doing it in English, probably you need to think more about what I can do so that they can feel more comfortable doing this, right? So this brings me to the next question. I think in any EMI class, I think the teachers would probably expect students to do some kind of oral presentation, right? Or some kind of speaking project. You could take the form of informal sharing. It could take the form of formal presentation, right? And can you describe, from your experience, can you describe something that you have observed before? Do you think that your teacher or your instructor has done something successful to prepare you guys to have have an overview about what they are supposed to talk about in a speaking project. Okay, because it's definitely not just a professional issue. Because when it comes to EMI, language concern is always a big issue for a teacher. I need to tell you what you need to do professionally, but I probably need to also tell my students what they need to pay attention to when it comes to using a foreign language to do this to present or share their ideas. And so language scaffold is also an important part. So from your experience, can you share any successful example that your teacher has done to make your speaking project work better? Like during the preparation stage or during the very first beginning?
Thank you, Tony Liu. I would like to have a quick pause here to make an announcement. For today, we are video recording this session. We are also live streaming this session. So this is just a quick announcement for you to know. All right. So again, back to the question, Su-Yao, can you describe a successful approach that your teacher has used to guide you in providing an overview of your speaking project?
I think a successful approach my teacher has used is to breaking down the speaking project into the smaller tasks and providing a very clear instructions for each step, like how to do, how to express yourself, what is your attitude and the words you have to choose, and also the PPT and how to make it more clearly. So I think this makes the project feel more manageable, and we can focus on mastering one aspect at a time before moving on the next. I think so. In brief, I think breaking speaking project into smaller tasks is the most effective way my teacher have used before.
Well, I would agree on that. What do you say, Professor Liu?
Well, I think this is something that I did a lot because, but it's not just only for the proficiency concern. I think it also has a lot to do with my design of a class. I think regardless of the nature of the class, it's always a good idea to organize the content of your course. It shouldn't be just a big chunk of information that I want my students to take away. I'm hoping that they can vividly remember all the small pieces of information. And that also allows me to better check where they are in terms of each concept that I'm hoping that they can learn. Because, at the end of each section, you always have the chance to see and to check where they are in terms of their knowledge intake. So yeah, I think it's good for the teacher. It's also good for the students. But I'd like to take the chance to ask Su-Yao a question. Your English proficiency is already excellent, okay? But undoubtedly, there will be other people whose English is probably, let's just put it this way, in development, okay? They are still learning. And what do you think will be the biggest, if you have to name two top challenges for people like you and two top challenges for those people who are still not having sufficient competence in their oral skills? Do you see different challenges, or do you feel that your challenges are shared regardless of the language proficiency level?
I think people like me and also people like still develop the English proficiency. I think both of us have shared some difficulties, because I think the most challenging thing for all of us, I think, is the confidence. I think a lot of people lack of confidence in such environments because we also lack of opportunities to speak English, to express ourselves in English. So I think the most challenging things is confidence. It's about how to open yourself, how to open up, how to share your mind. And also I think, but I think students who are developing improving their English, I think they have to face more challenges, because they have to they have to know how to foster their English. Like maybe they have to know they have to use how can I say, like they have to know how to improve their vocabulary, listening skills, and also writing skills, and instead of just improving the confidence. But I think making mistake is actually not a big deal. Like grammar mistakes, and maybe you cannot speak, you cannot make a correct sentences while you are speaking, but that is also actually is not a big deal. I think that is all of us have to know making mistake is not a very shameful thing.
Right. I like Su Yao's sharing a lot because, there's a reason that I asked this question, because sometimes students think it's just me, right? Maybe it's just me and my English is not good enough, but I think Su Yao's sharing makes a lot of sense to people. I think regardless of where you are, it's always a challenge to, all of us. What becomes a challenge to you will definitely be the problem for the other people too. So I think that's probably make a good case that, you are not alone. And also, Su Yao pointed out something very important. I think learning from our mistakes, and the teacher should see mistakes from a positive light, right? And because I think you will always remember the things that you struggle. You always remember all the things that at trial. Learning trial is always an important part of our learning experience. So I think maybe a teacher should also allow students to make mistakes from time to time, guided mistakes, right? And the student will remember. So this actually reminds we as teachers, have we constructed some text that allows students to get their hands dirty, right? And to have some experiential text in the class so the student, they can learn from their own mistakes. Thank you, Su Yao, for your sharing.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Professor Liu. I really like that the concept of not being afraid of making mistakes, and you always do and learn, right? So I also love that when Su Yao was talking that teachers are asking students to do the biteable size task, and then to identify that what might be the possible path. That can also be something that teachers can being aware of. So in that case, I would like to ask another question. If your teacher have already identified some of the students' weaknesses, and what would be some of the specific scaffolding or ways that the teacher can do to help students to improve their skills? As we all know that making mistakes is okay. So both teachers and students need to be open-minded. But sometimes if those errors keep being made, they become fossilized, and we don't want that. So do you see any of the strategies that your teachers has been using, or do you suggest anything that can help them?
My thoughts on that is, I think teachers should employ techniques like peer evaluations and also self-assessment tasks, and maybe have to offer some individualized feedback sections to help us to identify specific areas for improvement in our speaking skills. So by receiving such constructive criticism from teachers and also from multiple sources for students, I think we can gain a better understanding of our strengths and our weaknesses.
Well, thank you, Su Yao, so much. I am very happy to hear that you talked about all kinds of techniques that teachers can use in incorporating student engagement. So you are actually trying to demonstrate the possible teachers' practices with students' own self-monitoring using peer feedback, right? So that's actually absolutely very effective, because they are very fresh to what they just talked about. If there comes with a set of rubrics or grading criteria, or those statements serve as expectations, students can instantly compare their performance to the expectations, so they can understand the specific area needs of improvement. Excellent. What do you say, Professor Liu?
I definitely agree with that. And I think peer feedback is a very, very useful way for students to see where they are. As I said, this is a very important source of their learning too. They don't always have to learn from their teachers. And I think when I do the peer review, I specifically do one thing. I will assign each student a role to take when they do the peer work or group work. So every student has a role to play when they are participating in any, for example, group discussion or group project. So when they are giving the feedback to each other, they can contextualize their feedback. For example, if Yazhu is the group leader, when I give her the feedback, I can better contextualize my feedback in terms of the things that he or she can work on. And and everyone can play different roles in a group, and that allows them to see where they are, their potential or their limitation or things that they can work on, and perhaps they can find out their strength too. And so this is probably something that I do on purpose to give them that kind of comfortable mindset. And speaking of which, I would like to ask Suyao a question. I think creating a comfortable or a safe environment is very important for students, in an EMI class. And of course, you can get a kind of, comfort or security from your peers. But I think the teacher can also do something, to make it happen. So my question is that, how does your teacher create a supportive environment for students to discuss their speaking anxieties or insecurities? Do you think that your teacher has done anything for students to talk about, their anxiety? There are times that you need to do that kind of pet talk, right? And how does your teacher do it? And can you share some of your experience? I believe that your teachers don't just talk about the professional stuff all the time, right? So has your teacher done anything to help students, to facilitate students' positive mindset and allow students to talk about their anxiety, anything like that?
I think my teacher creates a supportive environment by create a non-judgment environment, and also after a self-report or self-presentation, I think my teacher always give me a very detailed feedback, and also my teacher also create an environment by fostering a culture of trust and also respect in the classroom. So they encourage open communication, and they also listen attentively to our concerns, to our even our presentation, and provide constructive feedback in a non-judgmental manner.
All right, thank you. That's a very good example. And one I'd like to add to that as well. I think I actually did one thing very special probably during the past semester. I asked each of my students to talk about two things that they would do differently if they had a chance to do it again. So, that's also another kind of feedback that student can do. You always know the things that you did well and the things that you didn't do quite well. So feedback can come from their group members, and they can, of course, come from themselves. And, the feedback that you give to yourself, of course, is not going to be judgmental. You know your best better, right? The best. So then maybe that's one possibility that a teacher, can do. And even if your teacher is not doing it, I think you as a student can always ask yourself, right? And, the things that you did well. And I think better than the other people that the things that you did well. So that's something that I'd like to respond to Suyao's sharing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Liu. I'm also very impressed with Suyao's sharing. Her description of her teacher seemed to do a very good job. I think that's really delightful to hear, because the teacher not only provide a non-judgmental environment, but also conduct an inclusive environment for all kinds of people regarding their background, their cultural differences, or even their readiness in terms of English, in terms of the subject matter. Teachers trying to be really inclusive to help students to find their own place in the classroom, so that I can imagine that students are learning really happily and also meaningfully. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. Apart from that, what Professor Liu just added in is that teachers are also engaging students in the process of reflection. So we all know that from the master John Dewey has once mentioned that we don't learn from our experiences, we learn from reflecting our experiences. And I think that what Professor Liu did in his class is actually the demonstration of helping how students look back to their learning processes and identify the area of their achievement so that they can, be happy about, right? And they can also identify the area of improvement. That is absolutely wonderful. So I think that is a great time that leads us to the last part of the day. The question is that what are the most common speaking challenges for students to face, and how do you address them during the discussions? I think that's also something that we talked about today. As you are encountering with other fellow students in your classroom, and if they are not that proficient, how would you react to that? And how could you, as you just mentioned, your teacher listened so attentively, then with the students, how would you do that?
So in my opinion, I think the most common speaking challenge is not just vocabulary, making a complete sentences, but also is include fear of public speaking and difficulty organizing the thoughts coherently, organizing a lack of and also a lack of confidence in their abilities. So I think during discussion, I think we need to address these challenges by practicing mindfulness techniques, or maybe keep repeat what you want to say before class. I also we need to try to structuring our thoughts using outlines, or maybe using visual acts, just using some interesting gesture. They're also okay to help you to express your thoughts correctly, and it is also can help you to build confidence through rehearsal. And also the most important part is peer feedback. You can listen some constructive feedbacks, constructive opinions from your group mates, from your teammates. That would be a very good idea to address such difficulties.
So yeah, thank you for sharing. I think you this is actually something that I meant to mention earlier, but I thank you for providing me this. Suya just pointed out something very important. I think, and this is what I observed from some of my students too. When it comes to the final oral presentation, they get, not surprisingly, they get anxious. So probably they will just, work on a script that they before the presentation, and they try to rehearse it all, like probably several times a day. But when you're doing this, you will probably over rehearse it to such an extent that it sounds like that you are memorizing something. But Suya's sharing actually pointed out that perhaps you should work on an outline, right, using keywords. And so you know exactly what you want to talk about on each slide. And so every time that you rehearse, you look at the keywords, and you can always use different expressions, to talk about these concepts. So you are working on the messages or message of each slide, rather than working on every single sentence verbatim, word by word. So that, I think that's a very good reminder for all the students. If you are working on a speaking project for an EMI class, perhaps that's something that we all need to remember. And also getting feedback from your classmates is also very important, because after all, the purpose of making an oral presentation, or like what we are doing right now, is to make sure that we are using the kind of words that can be understood, right, by our audience. So, it's different from the way or the mode that you use to talk to your classmates. We are talking to someone whose knowledge or background knowledge is probably not as good as us. And how do we use something short and sweet, something that is comprehensible, to share our insights with them, so that, if they cannot even understand us, how can they even appreciate the point that we are talking about? So practicing it in front of our classmates and giving them the permission to provide honest feedback is always important if you want to become better in your oral presentation skill. So thank you, Suyao, for sharing.
Well, thank you, Professor Liu, and thank you, Suyao. Your answer just enlightened us that it will actually bring the best result when teachers, students, and the school work together as a whole, right? So not only the teacher need to be aware of what the challenges that the students are facing, students also need to understand what are the current challenges that they are breaking through. And we work all together to help each other to get to use the language in the real life setting, the classroom. And we are specifically using some academic language and specific language that we might not be using outside of the classroom. So the opportunities are really valuable, right? Since that the challenge ahead is definitely something that we need to conquer together, we need to be really open-minded and make those tasks as manageable ones so that you can deal one at a time and allow rooms for mistakes, and then always be really conscious about what we are doing right now so that we can reflect on what we just did. So that is absolutely wonderful talk that we got a chance to explore these kind of effective techniques to get students involved and being encouraged to discuss their concerns in the classroom, and then how can we do better. Well, the last question for the day is that, Suyao, have you ever tried the service from Center for Academic Literacy?
Academic literacy. I use the server. I only go to English chat room before. I think that is it and I answering your question?
It's okay. Thank you very much. Now, Suyao, you just mentioned lots of the resources that we provide here in NTNU, and with today's session, it is held by Center for Academic Literacy, where we provide one-on-one tutoring service specifically on academic writing and speaking. So if you ever been given with a learning task that has to do with academic writing or speaking, you can bring your draft and have a deep conversation with our tutors in the center. Okay, and we have, you can reserve for the slot for any times of visit. We have services in Gongguan, in main campus, and also online. So these are the resources that we provide all year round. And we hope that students can be benefited by these one-on-one service so that they can have a tailored input or help, right, on their individual progressing. And that actually leads us to the end of today's session. We are here at Center for Academic Literacy, and we are helping all the EMI courses to develop, to go through, and to to break through the challenges that we are facing in EMI instructions. And also, teachers are more than welcome to join us every Wednesday afternoon, as we also provide a really inviting and welcoming environment for teachers to have a coffee break with us, talking about challenges that you may have. So yes, thank you very much for joining us with today's session, and we hope you a wonderful EMI learning journey.
Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you here at Cal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Suyao. Thank you very much, Professor Liu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.